Hey, how's it going? My name's Dennis Demijola. Today I'm going to be talking about the album I selected for China, which is called Inside the Cable Temple by Omnipotent Youth Society. Here's some of the artwork. Uh, it comes in as a CD. It's not on vinyl as far as I'm aware, but the CD packaging is pretty cool. It's kind of like wood, obviously not, more like cardboard, which seems cheap. But it comes with this little booklet, and I guess it's like a scroll or something. I don't know. It's cool. It's got like some artwork. Haven't really looked through the artwork yet, but when I have the time, artwork definitely looks cool. But initially, I had a different album selected, and it was a disco album by the artist Leslie Chung. So I picked it because I was watching a movie, Twilight of the Warriors, Walled In. It's an awesome action movie, right? And in the beginning, there's this disco scene, and it's only like maybe like 5 minutes of people disco dancing in the 80s, I think. I don't know. It's like an underground disco scene. There are drugs and fight rings. I was like, oh, dope. Hong Kong's probably got a decent disco scene, and so I did a little digging, and they do, evidently. I figure most countries did at some point. But I don't know how big it was. I don't know how influential it was. Also, just the fact that I gathered this assumption from the intro of like a martial arts movie. It seemed a little weak in foundation, but it was a good album, Leslie Chung. But then I read music forums, online music forums, and I like to look at people's lists, what they picked for like their favorite albums. So I was looking at lists on Rate Your Music, which is the music forum that I look at, and they have lists similar to the one that I look at, the one that I'm doing right now, and a lot of them had this album for China, right? And I thought, all right, I'll give it a shot. So I listened to it, and it's amazing. I mean, it blew my mind. It was one of those albums, I might actually consider this one of my favorite albums. This is an album that I got to listen to as much as I can. But it's one of those albums that you can't listen to in pieces. This album is actually just one track, 45 minutes long. I cannot skip. And if I left off at one point, all I can do is pause and come back to it and play it again. But if I turn off the CD player and I turn it back on and I'm like, all right, well, I want to find out where I was last time. It's not like track 4, track 5. No, I have to like skip to that specific time where it's like, oh, I was left off at 34 minutes and 36 seconds. All right, fast forward. And yeah, so I mean, I guess it's a downside, but it's also an incentive to keep listening to the entire album again and again and again in full. And that's how it was meant to be played. This album really feels like kind of like Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, in the sense that you listen to it from beginning to end and it's a whole story and it flows so smooth together, each song. And it is kind of like a different song. There are like several songs in this album, but they flow so smoothly together, so seamlessly, that I cannot really tell where each song is all the time. Some of them are obvious, but yeah, so a very good album. in my opinion. I have some notes here. So yeah, I guess I'll go into a little bit of background. The band is called Omnipotent Youth Society. They came out with an album in 2010. They only have 2 albums and a couple of singles. Excuse me. In 2010, they came out with their debut album, eponymously named after the band themselves. And it was a hit. I mean, it got them Band of the Year in China's Music Media Awards in 2010, as soon as the same year the album came out. And this next album, Inside the Cable Temple, came out 10 years later, right? That's a bit of a wait for such a popular band. It sounds like they did a lot of touring in between to really bolster up support or a following. And then they put this out. And I listened to the first album, and it's awesome. It really is. But that album's a little more... I guess it's not as dynamic. So this album has been described as very jazz influenced, rock influenced, chamber folk. I'm not sure what that exactly means, but it does sound folksy at times, more of an acoustic sound, and it just flows together. It flows from like chamber folk, right, and then it flows into like rock, and then it builds up into something a little more jazzy, but like still with some electric guitars playing in the background. And I think what makes this album different from the first one is how climactic it is. Not anticlimactic, climactic. It builds up, and it really hits a peak halfway through the album. But it's not like it, plummets after that. No, it kind of like tapers. It tapers to the end of the album where you're like, you got so excited, you need to calm down. And that's kind of how it finishes. So a very exciting listen. Definitely one you need to sit down for. I'm not saying you gotta lock in. I don't know what the lyrics are, so it's not like you really have to pay attention to the lyrics. They're in Chinese. I think it's Mandarin. And from what I read about the album it's a cool. I don't understand the lyrics. But from what people describe the album to be about, the music makes sense. They describe it, so the inspiration for this album was the band was riding a train around their hometown. I'm about to butcher the name of their town real quick. Shijiazhuang. And by the way, the album is called Inside the Cable Temple. That's an inaccurate translation, according to people that post on music forums and ChatGPT. So if that's not credible enough, I've got nothing. But what a more accurate translation of the album would be, because I think the album's got a Chinese title, so it does translate to something else. A more accurate translation would be A Walk in the Woods of Southwestern Hebei, Hebei, which is where, I guess, the region where Shijiazhuang is. Anyways, so on this train ride, they got to see the whole town from some distance, and I guess it was a train ride around the city. And this city is one of the most polluted cities in the world, and yet there's still some beauty to it, right? I think that's a very poignant dichotomy that they sort of play with in the album, and you can kind of hear all the chaos in the album, and then also moments of peace to show you how industrialization can kind of corrupt the natural beauty of the world, and yet, and there's some storyline about how, yeah, I didn't really understand the storyline, but there's a storyline about how it clears up in the end, and you can hear that. Um, it's like, oh, peaceful moments, climax, oh, chaos. It's the industrialization causing all of this pollution, and then, there's the eye of the storm where there's this peace once again. That's kind of like the emotional dynamic of the album. So, um, yeah, that's pretty much it. I think it's worth a listen. I'm gonna play a little bit of it, and I highly recommend it. I'll just 可听到雷声隐隐，可感到夏日来临，可听到雷声隐隐。Okay, yeah. So that's all I got. I don't really care if you like, comment, or subscribe, but I hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, this was Inside the Cable Temple by Omnipotent Youth Society. My choice album and artist for China. So, thank you.